Hey there, Teddy Rubskin here. And, a little while ago, the Angry Video Game Nerd did a video where he pitted the Sega Genesis against the Super Nintendo, And I've been getting a lot of requests to, represent the fucking Sega Genesis and respond to that video, Because, I'm the Sega Genesis guy, right? So, yeah. Fine, let's do it. Sega Genesis versus Super Nintendo in the ultimate battle to the death. Yeah, let's fucking do it. Even though this debate is like 20 years old, guys. Really, seriously. I thought it was settled already. It's not. So I gotta fucking set you guys straight. Is that what's going on here? Alright. Well, let me set you straight. First off, let's get it out of the way. Fucking Super Nintendo has better graphics than the Sega Genesis, alright? Alright, let's just put that to bed. Their graphics are better. They got more fucking colors, alright? They got fucking more pixels. And better pixels. I don't even know how that's possible. The pixels are better, I mean, they have more colors. The fucking Super Nintendo has millions of colors. While the Sega Genesis merely has hundreds. Only hundreds of colors, guys. Yeah, well, the battle between Sega and Nintendo was fought on several different fronts. There was the 16-bit battle. But there was also the war between the Game Gear and the Game Boy, right? And if graphics were really the most important thing, then the Game Gear would have fucking won, right? Because it had way better graphics than that shitty fucking Game Boy, It had a tiny, tiny little screen. It was green. And it didn't light up or do anything. The Game Gear, though, had a big, huge light-up screen. It was full fucking color. And the sound effects were good, too, How the fuck did that lose to the fucking Game Boy, huh? Well, it was a genius move packaging the Game Boy with Tetris, right? And it didn't matter the graphics were crappy, because it was just blocks. It didn't matter it wasn't in color, because it was just shapes, And apparently the battery life was an important point for the portable system, so Game Boy had a better battery life, But back to the fucking Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo. Like I was saying, graphics aren't the most important thing, And let me set the nerd straight here on something. He said that the fucking Super Nintendo had an FX chip, which was a 3D chip that allowed it to do 3D graphics like in Star Fox, right? Well, Sega had a 3D chip too, called the SVP chip. That went in games like Virtua Racing, right? Gave 3D graphics. And that shit had some complex motherfucking polygons, but the motion was super smooth, Because the fucking Genesis is actually faster than the Super Nintendo, Yeah, the nerd set me straight on something. Because I'd been lied to for years, man. People telling me that blast processing was a lie. That Sega was straight up fucking fibbing about it, It wasn't faster than the Super Nintendo. It was bullshit. Well, that's apparently bullshit, alright? Because the Sega Genesis is faster than the Super Nintendo, The Super Nintendo has a processor that runs at 3.6 megahertz. Well, the Sega Genesis runs at 7.6 megahertz. That's more than twice as fast. Man, fucking bullshit. Fucking bullshit. So there. Super Nintendo has better graphics, but the Sega Genesis is faster. And Nerd says that it's hard to tell, hard to show a good example of how it's faster. Well, I got a good fucking example. Slow down. And when the game fucking slows down, well, that happens a hell of a lot less on the Genesis. And the nerd prefers the Super Nintendo controller to the Sega Genesis controller, saying that the Sega Genesis controller only has 3 buttons, then he says that he's only comparing the one that came with the system. The one that came with the system, well. But the one I got, the Model 2, well, that one came with 6 button controllers. Yeah, it did. It fucking came with them, right? And the Sega Genesis Model 3 came with 6 button controllers. And the Genesis CDX came with 6 button controllers, Didn't come with the system. That's a silly point right there. I mean, come on. Which one's really better, And who the fuck says you can't fucking upgrade, man? Man, I fucking upgraded. See this right here? This is the 6-button turbo arcade stick. the Cadillac of fucking Sega Genesis controllers. Let me tell you. It's fucking sweet, man. This is great for fucking playing arcade games, especially fighters, like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. It's great. Hey, the Super Nintendo had a fucking arcade controller, too, See, I'm not hating on the Super Nintendo, because really the nerd wasn't hating on the Sega Genesis either, He admitted that The Adventures of Batman and Robin was better on the Sega Genesis than it was on the Super Nintendo. Well, allow me to do something similar for you, nerd. Alright, I played Jurassic Park on the Sega Genesis, and wasn't a huge fan. I got a video you can see where I actually played that. It's a link over here or something, right? But Jurassic Park on the Super Nintendo is fucking better. It really is, And recently I played fucking Batman Returns for the Sega Genesis, and that game fucking sucked. It was real bad, but Batman Returns on the Super Nintendo, that one's really fucking good. Now, I don't have any footage of these fucking games, because I don't have a Super Nintendo that works. But I do have those games, and eventually I'm gonna fucking get a retro Duo, cool looking black one with the red highlights, so it matches my fucking Sega Genesis with the red highlights and shit. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I mean, when I reviewed the fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger games on the Sega Genesis, most of those games were on the fucking Super Nintendo too. T2, the arcade game, Last Action Hero, True Lies, were all on the fucking Super Nintendo, and probably had better graphics, better sound, In fact, True Lies was released on the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Game Boy, and the fucking Game Gear, Back in the days, the big games would come out for both systems, Sometimes they were different, but a lot of times they were the fucking same on both fucking systems, But when they were different, they were definitely different, you know what I'm saying? Super Nintendo had Super Mario, right? Sega Genesis had Sonic, Nintendo had Metroid, Sega had Vector Man. Nintendo had Link, Sega had Landstalker. Nintendo had Killer Instinct. Sega had Eternal Champions, And the games that Sega had, Nintendo didn't. The games that Nintendo had, Sega didn't. You know what I mean? But you really want to run down, You really want to fucking run down the best fucking video game system of that fucking era? Well, it was the Neo Geo. Yeah, the Neo Geo was the best fucking system of that era. Alright? It is the best fucking puzzle game. Bust a Move, that fucking game rocks. Best action shooter, fucking Metal Slug. Yeah, that game gives Contra a run for its money. And the best fucking fighting games ever. Fucking Samurai Showdown, World Heroes, Fatal Fury, Art of Fighting. The fucking list goes on and on, man. It's fucking crazy, but Neo Geo was ridiculously expensive, and each individual game was ridiculously expensive. If you had the money to get it, you probably were playing your fucking Neo Geo near your fucking indoor pool, because you were a rich bitch, because that thing's fucking ridiculously expensive. Well, it is the best system from that era. It is. Can't really argue with that. Can't argue with the fucking numbers, Can't argue with the science. Other than that, it's all opinion. And in my opinion, I prefer the Sega Genesis. I think it's a rocking system. I think it's one of the best systems of all time. It's better than the PlayStation 2. It's better than the Xbox 360. It's better than fucking Atari 2600. Yeah, but that's my opinion. Angry Video Game Nerd has his opinion. Right? But there's also Mark from the Classic Game Room, right? And he prefers the Sega Genesis. What is he, full of shit? Is he just wrong? You tell me, huh? Seriously, tell me in the fucking comments. Let's do this. Yeah. Yeah. Let's have it out. Write me. Seriously. Love fucking hearing from you guys. And, yeah. Next time, I don't know, we're gonna make another fucking video. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. All the fucking time, right? Till then, keep it real. So fucking good. Gives Contra a run for its Contra gives Contra a run for its money.